Good evening, guys. Hey, coming at you with the Monday Night Facebook Live. This one is specifically about Texas. We've had a good year all across the country, which, to be honest, kind of surprised me. With COVID shutting basically every legislature in the country down a year ago, I didn't expect this to be a good year for shared parenting because normally when that happens, you have all the bills from the previous year plus the new bills of new things that came up regarding COVID as far as education, health issues, all kinds of things like that, unemployment issues. So you're adding an already stressed legislative session, adding extra bills, and now we need to get the new bills through. I just really, to be honest, didn't expect much this year. But I'll tell you what, to be honest, I believe this is the best year we've ever had regarding shared parenting across the country. 4 different states passed different bills that like I said, I just never expected that. So some of you know in Oklahoma and in Tennessee, we passed facts, findings, and conclusions, similar to the bill that passed in Missouri in 2016. This bill is not a perfect bill by any means, but it basically forces judge to give written facts and findings as to how they arrived at their conclusions, so they can't just rubber stamp every other weekend, and therefore limit people from a chance to appeal the case. Now, as most of you know, judges still can finagle things around, so it's not a perfect bill by any means, but it definitely moves the ball in the right direction. We noticed in Missouri a very, very positive improvement after we passed our bill in 2016, especially on the eastern side of the state. Matter of fact, the Eastern District Court, 2 days after our bill became law, actually referenced that bill in, oh my gosh, you would think that I would know the case. That's horrible. But they referenced our bill in a case. So both Oklahoma and Tennessee passed bills for facts, findings, and conclusions. Then we had Arkansas that passed just a beautiful bill with clear and convincing evidence as the standard. Guys, this is the one that we've all wanted for a long time, and it's just so hard to get that. A lot of times you have to settle for preponderance of evidence, but Arkansas was able to get it through. Really proud of Arkansas advocates for parental equality down there with Patrick and Gina. They did just a phenomenal job. There were several of us that went down there. I was very fortunate to have had a chance to meet with several of the legislators that sponsored the bills, and got a chance to talk to Patrick and Gina usually about 3 times a week for about a year and a half. But I'll tell you what, they worked their tails off down there, and I've never seen anybody work harder than the 2 of them, so really proud of them. Now on to Texas. Texas was one that we were able to slide a bill through without a lot of people knowing about it. A lot of people were following the SB1936, and this gets into, we'll talk about in a second, getting legislation passed. I've said this over and over and over and over, and I don't know why. Some people just do not believe this. Getting legislation passed is 90 to 95% politics and political strategy, which is very, very, very different than the legislation itself. Very, very different. And the chair of the Texas committee this year was a Chairman Nieves, who's a Democrat, a very feminist type of a Democrat. And normally last year in Texas, we had a great Democrat with Gina Caldoni, I believe was her name, that just did a dynamite job for us. She was a warrior. But this one was quite the radical feminist, and she was determined she was not going to let our bill see the light of day. And that was on SB1936. So what we did a backdoor approach. Senator Brian Hughes, and I've known Brian for a long time. We actually used to be in business together years ago. And some of you know I used to have a very large Amway business, and I spoke all around the country. And Brian Hayes used to come to some of those seminars. And so Hunter Youngblood set up an appointment. We went down and met with them, and we had a great time reminiscing about some of the different conferences that he and I had been to. But we met, I guess it was about 3 years ago, we met for the first time in his office. I know Hunter Youngblood was there, Josh Jaros was there, Stuart McMullen was there, I believe Taryn Champagne was there, and I may be leaving somebody out, and I apologize very sincerely if I am. And since then, a bunch of other great leaders. I know David Bella worked his tail off down in Texas, and Rustin Wright. Rustin may have actually been at that meeting 3 years ago, too. But, and sincerely, I apologize if I'm leaving anyone out. Texas just has so many leaders, it's hard to keep track of them all. But Ben Berverich, I believe, was there too. But we talked, and Brian is very, very supportive of our issue. So he slid a bill in through the back door in the Senate this year. Now, it's not a perfect bill by any means, but Texas, for those of you in other states, Texas is, to my knowledge, the only state in the country that when they say standard possession, they mean standard. It's literally the first, third, and fifth weekends. That's not exaggeration. Most of every other state in the country, if you do every other weekend, Chris Rainbow, Chris, by the way, him and Linda Steele are totally responsible for that Oklahoma bill. They really did the dirty work. I tell you what, they were at the Capitol all the time. Even though they may not have been there this year, it's seeds that they planted a couple of years ago through all those trips that Chris made and Linda made to the Capitol that were laid the groundwork for getting that bill passed this year. So we're all proud of you, Chris. We hope your garden's doing well. But anyway, back to Texas. So Texas, literally, most other states, if you do every other weekend, it could just be literally every other weekend. It could start next week. It could start the week after. In Texas, every single possession order in the state, I still hate that term, possession, but possession, you're parenting. But every possession order in the state is the first, the third, and the fifth weekend. That's why when we have conferences, we have to be careful, because if you do it on the first or the third weekend, most Texas parents say, I can't make it because I've got my kids that weekend. And so does every other parent in Texas. Well, they have what they call a standard possession order, which is first, third, and fifth weekend. And then they do give time in the summer, which, boy, I miss out on that. I get Levi an extra 16 days during the summer, and that's it. It starts tomorrow, by the way. I get extra time with him tomorrow. But anyway, so and then they get extra time at Christmas and spring break and things. But then they have an expanded standard, which adds in some Thursday nights and takes it up to about 45% of the time. That's not truly a 50-50, and in my mind, it's a shame because it really should be 50-50. 45 should be unacceptable. But considering how bad it's been for people in Texas, to go to have the new expanded standard be the new standard is huge. Huge, huge, huge. So that doesn't affect any orders that are currently in the process. But for new orders, or for orders that have a change in circumstance, and unfortunately, a new law won't be a change in circumstance. But if you can justify a change in circumstance, the new orders will now be expanded standard in Texas, which is the new standard. There will be no standard possession anymore in Texas. It's all expanded standard, which now brings the non-custodial up to 45% of the time. Now, let me give you the good and the bad. In my mind, that's great. We wish that we could get 50-50, but what if we don't for another 5-10 years? I mean, how long have we been working on this? So I know there's going to be people that say, well, by doing that, what if they say, well, we just, changed this law in 2021. We don't need to change it again. We need to, let's see how that works out for a few years before we readdress the issue. And there is a chance that that can happen. And I trust me, I see both sides of the coin. But the other thing you have to look at is how long have we been trying for 50-50? So for those non-custodial parents who are currently at standard, to now be able to get expanded standard is the lowest level they're going to get, that's powerful for that to be the new standard. Now, the other thing, it could go the other way, actually, because the momentum is now in the side of non-custodial parents. So now the issue is raised. There were, from what I understand, 150 to 200 people at that House hearing last year. This could help elevate to help move it towards 50-50 now. So it could go either way, and I respect both sides. I know there's going to be some people that think, man, I kind of wish that, I'm glad we got expanded standard as the new standard, but by doing that, does that mean we won't get 50-50? There is a chance of that, but like I said, in my mind, I think it was a great bill. Very, very grateful to Senator Hughes for passing that. And once again, all those people in Texas that worked on that bill. Sarah Johnson, I left her out. Sorry about that, Sarah. And like I said, I leave so many people out, and it's not intentional. I promise you. I've got so much respect for all of you down in Texas. But really, really proud of everybody. And like I said, 4 bills in 1 year is huge. Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, and Arkansas, and especially with such a solid bill in Arkansas this year, that was absolutely huge. So proud of everyone. Many people have been asking, are we going to be doing a conference this year? And absolutely 100% yes, we will be doing a conference this year. I believe it's going to be the weekend of September 25th, whatever that weekend is. And we're going to have 2 options. One is an in-person option, but by doing that, there's obviously a lot of hotel costs, there's air travel or driving, and a lot of extra cost involved. So we are going to have a digital component this year. And so you'll be able to, if you wanted to, you can either buy a digital ticket or you can buy an in-person. I'm the type, I like to go in person just because the actual interaction and the networking that gets done really adds a lot of value to a conference like that. But for those of you that can't make it, don't panic. We are going to have digital. Tickets are going to be a little higher this year. I've talked to several people, and I know Gina in Arkansas was saying the same thing, that we're putting a lot of value out there. And the time, effort, energy, and money that we are saving people that now have a roadmap of what to do. Well, they have a roadmap of what to do because of 35 years of me going to state capitals and the last couple years going to 29 different, or helping out in 29 different states. Well, what you don't realize is that means that I'm going to be, I won't be able to work during that week, so I have no income coming in. Plus, we have to pay the travel expenses. So I don't mind the no income. I do mind the no income coming in, but when I have no income, I can't afford to pay the travel on top of that. So we need to raise some funds, and normally that's what you do at conferences like this. So we are going to raise the price just a little bit, but we're going to increase the value too. I haven't determined what the price is going to be for a VIP ticket, but it'll be similar to most professional development conferences. But what you're going to get for that is 2 full days of conferences, either online or in person. You're also going to get access to the website afterwards, where we're going to put extra material, including videos of the actual conference. So that's going to be an added benefit. And then we're going to have a few conference calls the weeks after, reviewing and doing more live case studies. Instead of just giving theory, we're going to take a different state each week for a few weeks and analyze, where is this state at? What do we need to do, and do sort of a brainstorming session. We're also going to include, most of you know Leadership Institute, some of my friends there, that gave, I believe, the single best seminar we've ever had in shared parenting on how to get legislation passed that Dina gave the last time she was in St. Louis. She will be a part of this as well, because as I said, we moved too far the wrong direction. We started out years ago, we had people that all they wanted to do is tell their stories and basically yell at legislators and threaten legislators and tell them, we're going to vote you out of office, which, by the way, don't ever say that to a legislator, because you've immediately turned them off from ever building a relationship with you. But then we went into where we went so far the other direction, where we tried to logic our way through. And we tried to give them, every Bill Fabricius study and every Linda Nielsen. Guys, I hate to tell you this, but it is a fact. You talk to any legislator, they will tell you. When they're hit with between 500 bills, in some states, 2,000 bills in a legislative session, they don't even have time to read all the bills. That's a true story. And 80% of them will never have the time to dive into it. What they do, they find someone that they know, like, and trust, that they have a relationship with, that they trust on a particular topic, and they ask them how they should vote on that. I get calls from legislators in Missouri all the time on parts of bills that have something to do with kids. I'll get a call from Senator O'Loughlin or Senator Eigel or Senator Koenig, and they just call, hey, Mark, I haven't had time to really delve into this. Are you familiar with this bill? How would this affect kids in Missouri? I get calls like that all the time during the legislative session. And it's not because they're not interested. It's because they'd rather talk to somebody that they trust, who they think is an expert in that area. And so getting legislation passed has more to do with building those relationships with legislators so that they know, like, and trust you, and they have a confidence in you, than it does trying to educate them. If you try to educate legislators, I'll tell you what, you're going to turn some of them off. So this conference is going to really dive into depth, and we're going to have a lot of legislators, very well-known ones at the state level. Now, well, we are actually going to have a couple of, we may have some surprises, members of U.S. Congress that will be on the video portion that weekend talking to you about that very topic, about if you want to get legislation passed, this is how you get the door open with a legislator, and this is how you move legislation along. Ed Martin is going to be a big part of this. Most of you know Ed Martin has had experience with 4 White House administrations now. He was a chief of staff for the governor of Missouri. He was the head of the Republican Party for the state of Missouri. I mean, he pretty much knows how to get legislation passed, so he'll be a very big part of this. And Ed, by the way, will also be on some of our conference calls. So be looking for that. If you know for sure you're interested in the conference, shoot me a private message. Send me an email. My email is mludwig@afesp.com. So mludwig@afesp.com. Shoot me an email. Let me know that you're for sure interested in the conference. Like I said, I believe it's whatever the weekend around September 25th is, that's the weekend it's going to be. And we'll have, as I said, both an in-person and a digital component to that. So that's about it for now. Also, just in case anyone's near Springfield, Missouri, next weekend, most of you know a very, very good friend of mine, Jay Ashcroft, who's currently the Secretary of State for Missouri. He and his wife and I have been friends for years. I actually got to know his dad and got to know Jay when he was a kid. My very first campaign that I worked on was John Ashcroft's campaign for governor before he became a U.S. Senator, and he was actually the Attorney General on 9/11. But his son, Jay, is probably going to be running for governor in 2 years here in Missouri, and so we're having a picnic at his farm. It's $30 a person, which includes the barbecue. It's down in the Springfield, Missouri area, but that's going to be this weekend coming up on the 17th. So if anybody's from greater surrounding area of Springfield and you want to go to Senator Ashcroft's house or his farm for a picnic, shoot me a private message or email and let me know. Other than that, I will talk to y'all later. Thanks, guys.